Yeah, but even in South Park, we're like, ooh, we push the barriers. You know, they're like, there's an anal probe, and like they're calling, Kyle's mom a bitch. They're not tearing Kyle's mom's clothes off, and showing her titties on screen.
Remember when we first met John McClane? Argyle picked him up from the plane and took him down the Nakatomi Tower at the Christmas party. And the terrorists were overzealous, but it was sweet when they killed Ellis. And with a little help from Alan, John McClane kicked ass.
Welcome back to Shat The Movies, the podcast where we answer the question, were the movies we loved when we were growing up really that good? Have you ever caught yourself thinking, why don't they make movies like they used to? Can you still remember spending your Friday night searching for the perfect movie rental at Blockbuster Video? Do you know what Blockbuster Video is? If you answered yes, and this is the podcast for you, I am one of your hosts, Gene Lyons, and alongside me are my co-hosts, Ash, Shogun of the Dark, Kibagami.
Hi, y'all.
And Big D, Dick Ebert.
Good evening.
Each week, we take a look back in time, decide if our favorite films still hold up. The movies we cover are chosen by you, the listeners, who generously commission the films you love. If you'd like to see all the movies we have covered, will cover, want to choose one for yourself, please visit shatpod.com and have a look. At the end of each podcast, we'll provide you, the audience, with the number of wipes each movie takes to get our respective butts. So thank you so much for listening. If you have not already, hit that subscribe button and share with a friend. It's how we help the podcast grow. Additionally, subscribe to our sister podcast, Shat on TV. We review TV series such as Westworld, Taboo, American Gods, Game of Thrones, True Detective, Lovecraft Country, and Watchmen. Find all the information and past episodes at shatpod.com/TV. And finally, to hang out with us live, follow and subscribe to our Twitch channel, shatpod.com/Twitch, where we play video games, host watch parties, and edit this podcast live. All that being said, Big D, what movie are we reviewing tonight?
Gene, tonight I'm very excited for selfish reasons. We, as a podcast, yes, we're going to a new genre, but for me, I had a chance to broaden my film horizon, films that I've seen, an entirely new genre. So I was very excited when Eric wrote into us and wanted to commission an obscure film that was a challenge for us to find, but I think paid off in the end. It was the 1993 Japanese animated film, Ninja Scroll.
One Eric wrote in and said, "Hello, Shat Crew. Never really got super into anime or what we first called Japanimation, but saw the staples like Akira and Princess Mononoke, as well as maybe a dozen or so others. I have a friend who was way into anime legitimately before it was cool. She was the one that made recommendations for me. Some were cool, but many just didn't hold my interest. But like all kids that grew up in the 80s, I loved ninjas and cartoons. So when I saw this movie at a local video store, I immediately bought it. My friend and I, a different friend than the one that was super into anime, went to my house and partook in some of the devil's lettuce, then watched this. I was hooked on this movie from the opening scene and probably had my mouth agape until the end credits. I do recall even saying something along the lines of, even their birds are cooler than ours, when that messenger falcon grabs the scroll thrown in the air. I watched it sober the very next day, and it was just as amazing to me. As time went on, I've showed Ninja Scroll to many people, and they all have the same reaction, something along the lines of, why the hell are you giving me a cartoon to watch? But when they give it a chance and actually see it, they all have a resounding review that is something like, holy fuck, that movie was bananas. Anyway, thanks again for the commission, and I can't wait to hear your reactions to this. Ash and Big D, make sure the kids are not in the room either for this one. It's wildly inappropriate for children. Yes. My wipe score for this, I'd say about a 1. It isn't perfect, but it sure holds up as a great movie. Thanks for all you do, and stay safe. Eric C.
So, Gene, before we get to the film, I just want to bring something up. A lot of times our listeners and our supporters say, you guys are finding obscure films. And we've never had a problem finding a film. Ever, whether it's through legal means, whether it's through streaming, whether it's through the public library. This movie was the first time that it came down to the wire that I said, Gene, I don't know what I'm going to do. Maybe you have the DVD. I'm going to just send you some money. You could overnight it to me. This movie put us to the edge of not being able to find the film for the first time.
Yeah, I had no problem because much like If Looks Could Kill, I looked ahead on the schedule we had, Big D, that goes out nearly a year. Yeah. I saw that there was a movie coming up that was not on a streaming service, and then I ordered the DVD, and it arrived. It was amazing. It's amazing what you can find on the internet if you're willing to invest $14.
Well, interestingly enough, for me, I put out feelers here, like with my local community, and 4 different people had access to this film. Like, I had no idea. I had a large group of friends that like really love this movie. And so I had 4 different options to watch it.
Well, Gene, I don't want you to make it seem like I didn't attempt. Yes, I was lulled into a false sense of security when my VPN allowed me to access it on Amazon store. But once I went to check out from Japan and from my German location, they cross-referenced my phone number and said no.
Yeah, this is one of those situations where you could also watch the movie earlier than like the day before, in which case you would know that it wasn't available. And I should send a shout out to New to You Resale Texas. Actually, it might be your neighbors, who not only sent me this, but they were so excited to send me this movie after I bought it on eBay that they expedited shipping to me, and it arrived a week in advance. So I had plenty of time to watch and rewatch for Eric.
No, I'll do better, people. I'll do better.
Thank you. Well, Ninja Scroll is a Japanese animated film written and directed by Yoshiaki Kawajiri. The film was co-produced by JVC, Toho, and Movic, with Madhouse serving as the animation studio. During the 1990s, Ninja Scroll was among the most popular anime movies outside Japan, along with such movies as Akira, as Eric mentioned, and Ghost in the Shell. The North American video release of Ninja Scroll had sold more than 70,000 copies by May 1996, becoming Manga Entertainment's best-selling title at the time. So Ash, Big D, we always ask where you were and what your memories are of the movie. Eric was hoping that this would be a first time for each of us. So we'll start with you, Ash. Have you seen this movie before, and when?
So I'll be really honest, anime is not a genre that I know a whole lot about, save for like a few important ones that I've watched. I think Spirited Away, which came out in 2001, is one of the most beautiful films that has ever been released, and that's Japanese animation. I've seen Ghost in the Shell. I watch Pokemon with my son, also randomly Dinosaur King with my son, which he absolutely loves, but it's never been something that I like could claim to know a lot about. So therefore I had never even heard of this movie. But like I said, apparently a lot of my friends had and thought it was like really badass. And I have to say, like, Eric, thank you so much, because I'm so glad to add this genre to like the Shat Pantheon. And this movie just alone, like just standing on its face, like I think is a really, really interesting film.
Yeah, Eric, we're breaking all kinds of firsts on this show. The first time I ever saw a whodunit set in an abbey in the 17th century just happened recently.
Yeah.
And this is the first anime that I've actually sat down and analyzed. My only prior exposure to anime of any type was through the King Bee, and that was Neon Genesis Evangelion. I watched the whole series. I did not watch the last episode because I was so attached to the characters, and I just couldn't bring myself to watch. So I still have that one left. And maybe when I'm in a nursing home someday, Big D and I could sit down and watch it together. Hopefully it'll be streaming then so you can actually catch it. I've never seen Ghost in the Shell. I've never seen Attack on Titan. I've never seen Cowboy Bebop or any of them shits. So this was eye-opening for me.
Eric mentioned that you watched this high. I cannot imagine that. And again, I'm not an anime fan. I had never been exposed to any of it. So when Eric commissioned it, I was excited. I was like, okay, I need to add this to my repertoire. I have to be able to cross-reference films, because we can't say we're the best of 80s and 90s movies if we only review the ones that were important to us. So I thought it was important that we have a diverse portfolio of films that we do. But I do have to say one thing, is never seeing anime, and I know it is a diverse genre, I feel like I jumped into the deep end of the pool right off the bat with no life preservers, no floaties. It's like if somebody had never seen a film, a child, and you said, hey, let's sit down and watch Pulp Fiction. This would be a great movie. I was shocked, and I need to see some other types, because this one was the extreme.
Yeah, from what I understand, Attack on Titan gets about as weird as it gets. And of course, Akira, then you get like mutations and all kinds of crazy shit. This didn't really go that far to the supernatural, Big D. It gets a lot weirder.
Scared what that looks like.
All right, well, I don't know what language it's going to be in, but let's hit the trailer.
A hired samurai. The 8 devils of Kimon. Jubei Kibagami battles the minions of the Shogun of the Dark. With the aid of Kagero and Dakwa, he must defeat these creatures that rule by terror and use their powers from within the shadows. Winner of the Yubari Film Festival in Japan, Ninja Scroll is a tale that combines the mysticism of the Far East with lightning samurai action. Ninja Scroll.
In Edo period Japan, the Yamashiro clan mines gold in secret and sends a shipment to the Shogun of the Dark as payment for his protection. The ship runs aground onto Mochizuki territory in a storm, and the 8 Devils of Kimon, a ninja team with supernatural powers, kill the people of the nearby Shimoda village to keep the gold shipment a secret. While investigating the deaths, a Mochizuki Koga ninja team is massacred by the devils. The sole survivor, Kagero, is captured by the devil Tasai, who attempts to rape her. She is rescued by Jubei, a mercenary who fights and eventually kills Tasai.
One thing that I liked immediately about this movie is the character of Jubei. I think he's funny. I think he's charming. I think he's a badass fighter. And in that scene that we're going to have in kind of near the beginning of this movie where he's in that hat and the hat, like the little front piece gets like chopped by Tasei's blade. I love their interaction. I think he's very much of this time period, like a very typical action hero. And I don't know why I'm surprised by this. And I apologize to anime lovers out there because I know I'm going to sound like a real rookie here. But of course, animated films can build characters that are complex. I understand that. But the typical animated films that like I've been exposed to, they're funny. They're complex and funny. And so having him like do these beautiful martial arts, like, and just be that new type of hero that I've seen an animated character play before, I know that it's not unique to the genre, but for me, having never been exposed to it, it felt really different. And I really liked him.
Ash touched on something really important that I want to dive into here. As a disclaimer for this episode, we could have sat down and tried to act like anime experts and done the research, and you would have poked holes in it. Real anime fans would know. They would pick on us for it. That is not what we're trying to do here. And in fact, the whole point of this podcast, right, is to show our reaction to something, whether it holds up, and also just how it feels to us on first watch or on rewatch. And so I just want to highlight that because we may be way off, and I hope that serves for entertainment and not to frustrate you. If you want to call in, you can go on our Discord on chatpod.com. You can write us at host@shatthemovies.com. We want to hear from you, but know that we are telling you right now, as Ash said, we are not experts on this.
No. And I found myself worried about, like, Squid Games had an issue recently where they had there was 2 different subtitles for English that were very different. Then there was the dubbed version, which was very different. I watched the subtitled version. So I found myself throughout the movie worrying, am I getting the true dialogue, the transcription? So I don't know. What did you guys watch? What was your experience?
Well, I watched it with the English voiceovers. I did not watch it in Japanese with the captioning. But even in that, like Ninja Scroll, right? I was like, why is it called a Ninja Scroll? I didn't see a scroll at any point in this fucking movie. And it's really Ninja Chronicles is like a scroll, like a chronicle, like it's Jubei's adventures, right? And I'm like, oh, well, that makes way more fucking sense. I was watching for scroll the whole time. So I'm sure there was a ton that I missed.
Yeah, I watched the dub version as well.
And part of that is because I find it very entertaining. The English voice actors on anime, I think, are just like when it's always very, very funny to hear them do it. And I did a rewatch just to hear it in the Japanese, and it was a much more serious movie.
Very serious, yeah.
But getting back to Jubei, Ash, I gotta disagree. This sort of like cocky anti-hero, it's so played out as an anime cliche, just that wisecracking in the times of peril is very annoying to me, that his life is allegedly on the line. We're supposed to be concerned here. And he's just like, can't we just let this one go? And he does a thing where he acts aloof, but he has a heart of gold. That works for Indiana Jones. Jubei is no Indiana Jones. But we don't have to linger too far on the character, because if you don't find what you want out of this movie in the characters, you definitely find it in the action. And this movie got right to the action and then filled in the pretty ridiculous details later. They didn't have us meet all the characters first. It starts out with a fight. And I had been lulled over the years into thinking anime equals kawaii. Like, it's like, aha, and everybody's dressed up like a cat person or something. Ninja Scroll was a fucking brutal reminder of the 90s. It reminded me of the first time I saw anime. It includes blood and guts and boobs, and tentacle porn. This is the anime that we've forgotten.
Yeah, this is not your kid's cartoon, right? Like, I know Eric warned us of that in the beginning, but it was so funny in Slack, Gene, where you're like, hey, by the way, like, don't watch this with Finn. And I knew not to, because I knew what type of anime this was, but it's always, I think, very surprising when cartoons do this, right? Like, again, in the States, like, this is very much an American thing. Cartoons have become like Pixar. Like, that is a lot of where like our world ends in terms of animation. And there's this whole genre of animated films that are just for adults, not just, anime. I mean, you've got stupid fucking ones like Sausage Party, right? But there have been some animated films that are made for adults. I mean, and of course, I know we have South Park, we have Family Guy, we have, Beavis and Butthead, but like these are films, like these are movies, not television shows. And I really thought it was interesting how, like, right from the outset in this movie, like, you can feel the vibes of that adult action movie.
Yeah, but even in South Park, we're like, ooh, we push the barriers. They're like, there's an anal probe and like they're calling, Kyle's mom a bitch. They're not tearing Kyle's mom's clothes off, and showing her titties on screen.
Yeah, and I think I was surprised as somebody new to it that it is beautiful. There is an artistic style to it that is unique. A lot of the cartoons that we're exposed to, the popular ones, the Pixars, the Comedy Central, the Rick and Morty, it seems like the way it looks is secondary. Here, the visuals are such a big part of the movie.
I got to disagree on that one, Big D. I was a little worried in this opening scene by the animation and the style of the art. Like, we've been so spoiled by that modern animation that you talked about, right? That Pixar, that this 1993 frame rate and the art quality, it felt stale to me. Like, eventually I adjusted to the style of the movie, but you cannot tell me that there aren't better ways to animate Jubei eating a rice ball. I think he took the same bite like 5 times.
I don't know. I thought there was something really, really charming about that. It felt dated in a way that felt good. I don't know, the way that nostalgia feels good. But, the scene on the bridge, that opening scene that you're talking about where you were kind of concerned, the action there for me felt so much like the movie The Matrix. And I was like, okay, so there's this like running theme where it felt over and over and over again like The Matrix had to have pulled from this. So I went to the web to research, and sure enough, the Wachowski siblings, they mentioned 3 movies as their major influences for the martial arts sequences: Akira, Ghost in the Shell, and then Ninja Scroll. So from that kick-ass opening on the bridge, like moving forward, like you can feel that action movie influence that it eventually would become in the mid to late 90s. And I had no idea that this type of a movie, or this movie specifically, was so prolific.
I don't know. Gene, my defense in this is that I don't want a hyper real version of like a gory body desiccated and ribs sticking out and blood being just projected out of someone's neck. I'm having nightmares now of what a Pixar version of this film would look like. Can you imagine a 3D computer generated character chopping each other apart, raping tits? What would Pixar titties look like? That's what I want to know. Because to me, I
just want to know what raping tits are.
Grabbing, just violently pulling. But I think I'm finding the comic book style in this. You're right. It is less animated. You can tell that there's very few frames in between the scenes. It almost felt to me like it was mostly a set image. Then we would pan, we would scan, we would zoom in. There was almost no motion other than like the twitching eyes and the mouth when someone was being emotional. You could see, and today it's very different. And it made me feel, growing up, I love G.I. Joe. I've talked about it before. And there's one episode 21. It's famous because it is the silent episode. Snake Eyes, who is a ninja, he has to sneak into Destro's castle because Scarlet is captured. He defeats the Red Ninja, confronts Storm Shadow on the roof. He takes off. And at the end, you get the reveal that they both have the identical tattoos. And it felt, watching this movie, like I was reading a comic. My eye would go frame to frame, cell to cell, and the action was fast. I don't want that to be hyper real.
Yeah, I mean, I'm admittedly not a huge fan of animated films, so I might not be the best person to ask about this. But I did appreciate that the filmmakers, regardless of their artistic style, they went places with the animation that you just cannot go in live action. They warped reality and they had fun with it. Ninja Scroll, it went fucking bonkers in this department. You had like shuriken machine guns, like brrr, god! And like fucking tree limbs are falling off because there's so many shurikens. They're flying swords that cover like a quarter mile through the forest and are just like cutting people in half. And honestly, if you're out there and you're gonna make a cartoon, don't bother doing anything other than things you can't film in live action. Like, you're wasting your time. Just make a regular movie then. I want everyone to go this hard.
Am I correct that there was a tiny little guy on the bridge inside of like a wood suit with an outfit and his guns? I was like, what is, all of a sudden this little guy who's got a hand shooting, he's now in his underwear on the bridge cackling. I was like, what is going on? It is wild.
Dakwon, a government spy, blackmails Jubei into helping him kill the remaining devils. Jubei learns that the leader of the devils is Himuro Gemma, the former Yamashiro ninja leader who had ordered Jubei's team members to kill each other to cover up the location of a gold mine 5 years earlier. Jubei decapitated Gemma in revenge, but Gemma survived due to his immortality. Jubei is attacked by another devil, Benisato, but he is saved by Kagero. Benisato is killed from afar by Yurimaru, Gemma's right-hand man, for failing her mission. Kagero informs Jubei that her body is infused with such deadly toxins that anyone who sleeps with her dies, which is why Jubei could kill Tesai.
So I understand, I've already said that anime, there's a wide range within the genre. And for me, this being my first like taste of it, I was a bit shocked at the way the film portrays sex. And I'm not going to act all high and mighty. I'm not usually the one who's the prude on this podcast, but we get some realistic graphic depictions that shocked me. And I just found myself wondering, like, how is this a reflection? Because films are a reflection of those who create it. Like we've said, Tarantino's movies are a window into him as a man. And it just, to me, sex throughout this, it's weaved in as much as fighting and swords. It's titties, ass, it's sex. It is as much a player that I found myself just wondering, like, what's going on with the people who made this? Because to me, the Japanese people, and I'm making generalizations, they're very reserved, they're very proper, and this movie is anything but. It is graphic, it is violent, and the way they portray sex, it doesn't seem like anybody's enjoying it. It seems like everybody's a victim. You're either getting fucked because the guy wants to get off. It just does not seem like a pleasurable act, and it just made me worry about the young Japanese.
I was wondering this whole movie, is Japan okay? Like, I know we've all heard stories about, like, there's vending machines with dirty panties and shit, but really, like, is Japan okay? I understand that Ninja Scroll wants to cover topics like trauma and sexual assault and sexism, and I applaud any movie that wants to make a statement about those things. But I feel in this case, it's like they were making a scene about rape, and they're like, who's the audience? Like, rapists. We want this scene to be as appealing to rapists as possible. Like, I get it. It's a rape scene. Why you got to make the titties perfect? Why are they jiggling in like sexy ways? Why is every woman that's getting fucked in the worst ways possible, like oddly moaning erotically, and all the women characters like fit as hell? The dudes, I mean, like granted, like Jubei looks pretty good.
Yeah.
And obviously Gemma's like pretty ripped, but most of the guys are kind of stringy. They're kind of weird looking. The women are all 10s, just absolute 10s.
Yeah, I'm really glad when I saw this note that I wasn't the only one who was like, throughout this movie, because I don't know about you guys, but like I've never personally partaken in anime porn, not my kind of porn, but I've definitely seen like the ads on Pornhub that are always like randomly at the top, like as you're scrolling through, or like on other sites. And there were times when I felt like there were scenes of this that are just like cut out and like put on websites like that because they were like hella graphic in parts.
Was Hook Guy like fingering? Did they ever explain why he was fingering her?
Yes, because we're going to get into this. That's how he possessed her. Yep. He tied her leg spread, licked his hands, stuck them in her, and that's how he possessed her. Yep. He vaginally possessed her.
So when he possesses a dude, is he just doing it up his butthole, or like how does that work?
Or his mouth?
Or his penis hole?
I think it depends on what he wants to do, what he's in the mood for. But yes, how worse could porn be? The porn version. This was enough. If you're a horny young dude, you're going to get a chubby and you're going to start to beat off between these scenes. Yes.
What? So the rapey scenes?
They don't put that in the movie unless the audience is getting something out of it. What are they getting out of it? Because like Gene said, this is a rape scene made for rapists.
I don't know if I buy into that though, because like Like Requiem for a Dream, there are also scenes like this.
Yeah.
And I don't think anybody was getting horny.
God, that ending scene is not something but that you could like cut out and put in a porn site. But I don't know. To Big D's point, I think like still images from this definitely like could be like removed and put on a site like that. But for the research of the pod, I went and watched a couple of those videos on Pornhub afterwards to be like, okay, well, is it similar? It's pretty fucking similar. Like it's pretty fucking similar.
I'm going to take a wild guess. The big difference was a lot of cocks, a lot of dicks. There was
just
no dicks in this.
There's just more cum.
Is it like blood in
you
this?
went into the bukkake.
No.
Or is cum like here, like when somebody gets cut? Does it just shoot out everywhere?
It's pretty graphic. Yeah, it's pretty graphic. Because, I mean, they got to do it up big.
To be fair, they're much better about hydration in Japan than they are in the States.
Fair. Well, it's not just the sex, though, y'all, that's like hyper expressed here. It's also the violence. Like, this is like for real, like violent movie. And I'm okay with that. But apparently certain audiences were not. I had no idea that this movie was cut down significantly. Like, for example, in like the UK and in Australia, they absolutely cut out the rape scenes, and then randomly all references or images of throwing stars were removed. And I thought that this was weird at first, but apparently there's a precedence for this. So in the UK, I guess they just didn't like ninja stuff in the 80s and 90s because they banned a lot of these things, including Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, which was called Mutant Hero Turtles at the time. And like Michelangelo was giving like a grappling hook. And that feels very specific. They're removing all these ninja references.
First of all, in the UK, they have their own segment of crime called knife crimes. So I could see why they don't want any more ninjas running around. And then also, can you imagine Aussies with throwing stars? That's like the stuff of nightmares.
They got to kill the spider somehow.
Yeah, but you don't remember in the director's cut where Donatello rapes April O'Neil. He takes her down. He rips her shirt off. No, that doesn't happen. But here it does. And I want people to just listen to what Ash said. She said the rapes. There are multiple rapes throughout this film. And again, I'm not saying I'm all for
character.
I'm not saying, yes, she's victimized multiple times. But then there's also like the snake chick who's naked, and there's a lot of sexual violence here. There's a lot of sexual violence. And I'm not saying I'm against it. I'm not saying I'm here for it. I'm just saying I was a bit shocked.
The trio arrive in Shimoda, where they discover that the villagers died due to their water supply being poisoned. Not a plague. Jubei and Kagero fend off attacks from 3 of the devils, and Jubei succeeds in killing 2 of them. After finding the beached ship, Kagero deduces that the gold has been taken to Kashima Harbor, where it will be transported to the Shogun of the Dark in another ship. I noticed while watching this movie that the characters don't look quite Asian. And again, if you watch a lot of anime, you know this already. I had forgotten, because they're also not like quite European. Like, where are these people from? And this is a topic that got really heated. If you all remember when Scarlett Johansson starred in the live action Ghost in the Shell, turns out that at least with anime, they're not supposed to be Asian looking or European looking. They're just supposed to look basically that manga style. And I understand manga and anime are different, but the style is essentially the same. They're just supposed to look a certain way. And it's a school of art, right? And so it's not really meant to reflect any particular race. It's just its own thing. The characters, we can all agree by names, by culture, by the setting, they are Asian and they just look like anime. But I wonder, like with you guys, like knowing that, is it an issue if a white actor plays an anime character?
I mean, I think it definitely is. I think it's, if nothing else, so culturally significant to an Asian culture that it would not make a whole lot of sense for a white person to play. I mean, it's the same debate that they're having right now. Now that Brendan Fraser won the Oscar for playing that guy in The Whale, that he's another straight actor who won for a homosexual role. Should straight actors play gay roles? I mean, I don't know the answers to these questions, but I think they're important to ask for sure. And it seems to be that most people come down on the side of if you can find someone representative of that culture, of that experience, then it makes sense for them to play it. Well,
I used to be part of a marginalized group, so I'm going to need to speak up here as a a previously morbidly obese individual. I'm a little upset that they hire these fit actors to portray a morbidly obese actor. I think The Whale, we should have gone out there and found a morbidly obese actor. Brandon Fraser is way too fit to be. It's like fat face. Like, I don't want him to be makeup. It should be real fat.
So it's Brendan, first of all. And secondly, like, did you see Brendan Fraser when he was actually filming the movie? He wasn't morbidly obese, but he certainly doesn't look like the Brendan Fraser of old.
Yeah, I think I draw the line on this one, because on this one, if they did like a live action Ninja Scroll, I mean, it's Edo Japan, like it's feudal Japan. Yeah. They should be Jap. Ghost in the Shell, though, like there were some dudes in that movie. They're straight up white. Like that dude is white. Like it's blonde haired. He's or white haired. You know, they're clearly not Asian. I'm a little more on the fence on that, especially if they're like a fucking cyborg or an android. Right at that point, come on. They should find real cyborgs and androids.
Yeah.
So I wasn't so concerned with the way the characters looked. I was trying to keep track of who they were, what their powers were, who's fighting who. And there's a problem I have is that in this movie, there is a wide range of superhuman abilities. There are shapeshifters. There's people who can reincarnate. They're supposedly reincarnate themselves. There's somebody who controls wasps. There's a guy who can turn his body to stone. There's a boomerang sword that cuts through everything. Stone, trees, people. Nothing can stop it. There's a shadow creature who literally hides in the shadow, can come out. There's a magical thread for communicating, hanging people. There's a poison vagina. There's people who have like exploding bodily fluid. There's reattaching limbs. There's an actual devil. Every character in this movie feels like Genie said. It's like a big boss instead of the level boss. So each opponent that Jubei fights, they're overpowered to the point that I don't know what they can do. I don't know who kills who. It's like Marvel. Every big bad now, Thanos is the worst. And now all of a sudden, every character down the line, I can't differentiate between the powers.
I don't know. I felt like it kind of had like a Scott Pilgrim feel to it. Because if you go through Scott Pilgrim, like, are any of them stronger than the others? Like, not really. I like that they got super creative with the bad guys and everyone had distinctly different abilities. It made it fun to watch. It'd be shit if it was just like, this guy's a good swordsman and this guy also is a great swordsman. This guy has a bow and arrow. Like, wow. I just don't understand one thing. And maybe you guys, since I didn't get the vaginal possession, maybe you guys can explain this one to me, because clearly this movie is going right over my head. The dude who could shock people through like his little electric wires, he zaps like the whole fucking river while Jubei and Kagero and Daquan are in the water. All the fish die. The fucking river explodes. And then the next thing you see, all our heroes are just fine in a nearby hut. Like, did I miss something there?
No, I don't think you did.
How did they survive that?
I don't know. How does a dude use his thread to electrify the entire river? There's a lot of questions I have here, Gene. That one wasn't one of them.
The poison vagina thing, that's science.
No, but
she consumed so many toxins that her vagina. Listen, we've all met someone like that. Jubei, Kagero, and Daquan arrive at Kashima, which has been evacuated. While Jubei battles another devil, Kagero sends a message to the Mochizuki Chamberlain using a ninja bird to bring his army to the harbor. She also learns from Daquan that Jubei's poisoning will only be cured if he copulates with her.
Yes.
The poisons in her body will counteract his. Kagero is captured by Shijima, and Jubei kills Shijima, rescuing Kagero once more. Kagero asks Jubei to sleep with her to cure himself. He decides against it, and upon the arrival of the Shogun of the Dark's envoy in a ship, Jubei leaves to prevent the gold reaching its destination. Kagero arrives to meet the Chamberlain, but he stabs her, revealing himself to be Gemma in disguise. Enraged, Jubei fights through waves of ninjas, but is nearly killed by Yurimaru, the wire guy. A gunpowder-rigged rat left as a trap by the devil Zakuro for Yurimaru for rejecting her advances kills Yurimaru, allowing Jubei to escape.
I mean, speaking of vaginas, right? Like, I feel like we've seen a lot of excuses for sex in movies up to this point. A lot of different genres. They attack this in different ways. But I have to be honest with you that I was not expecting the, hey, I'm poisoned, so I might have to fuck you in order for me to be unpoisoned thing. Like, this came out of, like...
Oh, I saw that coming.
Nowhere.
As a dude, we know that's coming.
I saw that coming.
And, like, Here's the thing. I will never insult Near Dark again for the whole, like, okay, so you have to have blood on blood in order to not be a vampire. Because that makes so much more logical sense than, hey, your poison in your dick will mix with the poison in my vagina, and it means you won't be poisoned anymore. It seems a little convenient, although I still did kind of love it.
Also, way to make her feel like shit, Jubei. So she gets naked in front of him. She like drops her clothes. She's like, this is the only way you can be cured. Her body, again, fly. And he just like walks up. No, I don't think so. And he just leaves her there fucking naked to like sob. And listen, we've all had that moment, that talk, right? Listen, you're a great gal and you're a total babe, but it just wouldn't be right to fuck you. We've all had that. It's the least he could fucking do. She just offered you her body.
Yeah.
To save your life. And it's not like he's not attracted to her. He turned it down because he didn't want to take advantage of her in that way, right? I wanted it, but I didn't want it this way. He just walks off, though. In her head, she's got to be thinking it's because she's not banging.
Yeah, well, he's got to give her, it's not you, it's a me.
Yeah.
This is, if any time in history there was that it fit, it was this one. And I found myself feeling bad for all the female characters. They're all fuck dolls. That's what they are first. They're human second. They serve very little purpose other than to tempt the guys they're going to pleasure them. Okay. And I found myself thinking, I'm now a young Japanese girl. This is a new one for me. I'm sitting there. I'm watching this. I've got Kagero. She's a formidable warrior. She is badass. She saves Jubei many times. She is great. And what is her special ability, Gene? What is the superpower that she has? It is that her vagina can either kill a guy or give him life. Then she gets tied up and she gets possessed by a demon licking his fingers and sliding it in her. I'm like, what the fuck is this? What percentage of anime fans are women and what percentage are just 99% horny guys whacking off during these scenes?
I got a theory, and that's the women who like anime of this type are just sleepy, because Sarah watched this movie with me on Friday night and she was half awake. That is the joy of doing this podcast, ladies and gentlemen. If you want to do a podcast like us, you too can spend your only Friday night you have with your partner in like a month watching Ninja Scroll. So she falls asleep, and the next morning she says, I don't know what that movie was all about, but I like to get my pussy licked. So maybe as long as they're just sleepy, they think this movie's hot as hell.
Well, wow.
Ash, were you aroused at any point by the things
know.
happening to women in this movie?
Was I aroused by
Like
them?
in
No.
any part
No.
just like a dark corner of your Japanese part of your soul?
No, I don't think I was aroused, but I thought it was a great movie. And I have tons of friends that are girls that like anime. They do. I mean, I think a lot of women like anime. They think it's badass in a lot of ways. But yeah, it's icky. I mean, lots of tits.
Well,
Poison vaginas. It's a lot. It's a lot.
So I had to go look because I was wondering, am I the only one who doesn't get anime? And it is not obviously a US thing, even though the US is second in the world in popularity of anime. But this is a study that they did last year on the popularity of anime among US adults. 11% never heard of it. 18% heard of it, but have no opinion. 23% said it was very favorable. 17% said somewhat unfavorable. 20% somewhat favorable, and 11% very favorable. So that's roughly 31% of the US that has heard of it and think it's something good. So we're not the only ones who aren't experts.
I mean, I tell you, this changes the way I see everybody that I've ever seen at Comic-Con in cosplay, because I looked at them and I imagined that they had like stuffed animals in their bedroom and like they eat out of like cute lunch boxes. They make the little bento boxes or whatever. Now I'm like, no, they're all perverts.
Yes. There is no way that a young girl would watch this and be like, oh, I can't wait to start getting sexually active. If I thought this is what's out there and the guys are learning from this, I would be like, hell no, I'm gone. Goodbye. My poison vagina is not open for business.
Well, then it wouldn't ever be poisoned. I mean, she'd be safe. It'd be fine.
Was that a commentary like she had an STD? Like to try to shame dirty girls?
She's been tainted.
That the poison is maybe the seed of all the different warriors?
She's been tainted. Don't sleep around, girls. Yeah. It's like Twilight, like she gets pregnant the first time she has sex in anime, your vagina gets poisoned, literally.
It's like, yes, that women will cause guys great pleasure, but also great pain. Oh, it's the duality of the vagina. Now we're getting into it.
Jubei finds a mortally wounded Kagero, who admits her love for him. They kiss, curing Jubei's poisoning, and Jubei and Dakwon board the departing ship. Let's take a second to think about that. So they didn't actually have to fuck. All they had to do was kiss.
Just some semblance of body fluid swap.
Maybe they could have spit on each other's hand and just like lick them. You know, you could have done anything.
On board, Gemma reveals his true intentions: to use the gold to raise a ninja army to terrorize Japan rather than serve as an ally to the Toyotomi. Jubei and Dakwon set the ship ablaze. As Jubei and Gemma engage in a brutal fight, the gold becomes molten and engulfs Gemma, who sinks to the bottom of the sea. Afterward, Dakwon thanks Jubei and expresses admiration for his and Kagero's humanity. Jubei resumes his vagabond lifestyle with Kagero's trademark headband tied around his sword's hilt.
So much of this movie felt like a video game, and I really loved that about it. You've got like the big bad in each game level where you got to beat the new boss, and that's repeated like again and again and again. And then here at the end, you get your final level. You go through, and they're just slaughtering the hell out of everybody. And I love that this scene alone proves that this movie is not a movie that's making you question life. It's not a movie that really makes you think. It's just kind of like a badass film with a lot of blood, a lot of guts, some sex, yes, some rapey vibes. But other than the rapiness, it's fun because of those other things. It's not like cerebral at all. And I got major influences of Kill Bill. Like clearly that scene at the end of the first movie was influenced by this film where she fights through all of those people. It's nothing but a martial arts bloodbath. And I loved every second of the end of this movie.
So again, Gene, thank goodness you read this description. It filled in a plot hole for me. I thought salt water killed him. I was like, what is this dude doing getting on a boat? Because I'm like, okay, the melting point of gold is much higher than this boat burning, but I did not know that. And that gives me an idea. I think that we could try something streaming on Twitch, Gene. Again, just throwing it out there. We watch a Japanese anime film with no subtitles, and we have to try to decipher what is going on. Because I would have never guessed that I'm watching Ninja Scrolls. It's this world, you know, it's vast. There's a lot of magic. There's devils. There's superhuman enemies. People killing everywhere. And then the government seems to be caring about plagues, and that the big MacGuffin is gold, that the Dark Shogun need gold. Really? Gold to buy Spanish weapons. Gemma is immortal. He gets his arm cut off. He just picks it up. He sticks it back on. His guys are slaughtering everybody except for Jubei. Why are you hiding in the shadows? Just get your guys. Your superpower. It would be like Thanos being like, I need to get better credit so I can get better spacecraft. You Avengers will not defeat my credit. I have compound interest on my side. That's not fucking dramatic.
There's no need for the charade on Gemma's part. Like he's hiding in the shadows. Like he's dressing up as the Chamberlain, right? Why? And that's the movie's biggest flaw. And honestly, it's the flaw of most anime plot lines. Like I haven't watched a ton of anime, but I like to, as we do on this podcast, read up on movies, understand what they're about, look at things and preview them as we consider whether we should accept a commission or not. And by and large, anime, it's too complicated. Like the plot just moves along with no good reason. The characters are just there to facilitate the plot, not the other way around. Why they need to be sneaky about the gold? Why do they need Spanish weapons? Like you said, Big D's fucking immortal. He's got an entire, like a bazillion ninjas at his disposal. Who's fighting him exactly? Are there bigger ninja teams out there that we don't know about? And is gold going to help with that?
I'm pretty sure if you stood up in the middle of a major city, had somebody cut your arms off, you stuck them back on, dude, I don't need my 100 pieces of gold. I'm on board. I'll work for you, buddy. Just don't kill me.
100 pieces of gold.
Yeah, exactly. Dude, come on. Come on.
All right, now is the time we give our Shat score for Ninja Scroll. The Shat score is our way of telling you how many wipes this movie would take to get off your respective butts. 0 wipes is a perfect movie. It is getting to serve as Chamberlain of a clan with perks like getting to give it to a lady doggy style while taking meetings with your super sexy ninjas. And 5 wipes is an absolute disaster of a film. It is watching an entire movie about a ninja scroll with no actual ninja scroll in it. Big D, we'll start with you. What is your wipe score for Ninja Scroll?
So I'm going to admit that I don't think I'm qualified to judge this movie, that this is my only experience of anime. So I'm going to go off of this film alone. I know it must be very diverse, that this is like the Pulp Fiction of anime, maybe, but I thought it was artistically beautiful. I thought it was something I hadn't seen before. It's terrifying. It's violent. It's gory. It's something that could not exist in anything but animated form. And then I found myself also, like, a part of me had died. I was wondering about like what young Japanese girls would think, and just about what was going on behind the scenes and the people writing it. So it had an impact on me. I'll be honest. I will probably, when I go to sleep tonight, have dreams about this film. It's definitely better than average. I don't think I can truly place it among anime until I've seen a few, but I think it's 1.5. It's definitely better than average.
Yeah, I think my love for anime and like manga films maybe has been born from this movie, because I enjoyed like almost every part of it other than the rapiness. It was fun. It was fast paced. I thought it was like bonkers in a really good way. And the animation I thought was really gorgeous, especially for this time period. Yes, could the women be treated better? Abso-fucking-lutely. But I thought it was a great film. And to your point about the complication, I love that about it. I love that this movie was like spaghetti. It was like a spaghetti plot line where like what came out at the end was a dish that like none of us expected. And that was a fun ride for me. I liked it. I will definitely watch this again. I thought it was cool. And I'm right with you, Big D. I think it's 1.5 wipes.
The thing is, though, there's always that moment in every anime where some character has to explain the entire breadth of the plot. And I don't know, man. I just roll my eyes at that point. I got to go 2 wipes on this guy. I appreciate the action and the creativity of Ninja Scroll. No question there. It was very creative. The action was fantastic. But the gross way it treats women and the absurdly complex plot, I don't mind a little bit of complexity. In fact, I encourage it when it works. But here, it's just absurdly complex. It made me want to fast forward to just the action scenes. And that to me is not a complete movie. It's a series of good action scenes. So it's 2 wipes for me. And with 2 wipes from me, 1.5 wipes from Big D and Ash, that gives us an average wipe score of 1.6 repeating wipes for Ninja Scroll.
So Gene, with a wipe score of 1.66 repeating wipes, that ties us in the 111 spot with a bunch of movies. Gremlins, Planes, Trains, and Automobiles, War Games, The Natural, The Rock, Back to the Future Part 3, Dutch, Stargate, and Manhunter. So it's a wide range of films there, but I mean, other than Planes, Trains, and Automobiles, I think it belongs.
No, it doesn't. That doesn't feel wrong for this at all. And this is where we get like, and I think like our wipe system is going to get even more complex moving forward because of the fact that when we add random genres like this one, like it's hard to put this in with, you know, fucking Stargate, right? Like, I mean, like, how do you judge this alongside a movie like that? It just gets really complicated. So, I mean, it feels fine.
I just had the vision of what an anime version of the wipe score would be. Like 5 wipes, be like, ah! Like shit is just shooting out of the guy's ass all over the toilet. His mouth is twitching. It zooms in on his eyes. Ah!
And what's 0?
0 is probably just peacefully walking alone with your stick and your hat into the blossoms. Ball. Yeah, that's on a bridge, unaccosted. Yeah, that's.
I imagine it as like a little slice of toast that also might be a rainbow cat or something, and it's just winking at you while throwing a peace sign.
As you eat your rice ball.
As you eat your rice ball. It's always got to have a rice ball.
Always.
All right, Eric, I hope we did Ninja Scroll justice. It came out a lot better than I expected it to. And moving on from that, we've got some voicemail from Adam from Philly.
It's Adam from Philly. Just finished the Caveman episode. I remember watching that when I was a kid as well, and I remember just loving it. And I like specifically remember those moments that Big D was bringing up with like the pterodactyl egg. And I also remember that the T-Rex got eaten, but clearly that wasn't the case. Judging by your less than favorable score, I'm not going to go back and watch it again. Not that I ever had any plans to anyway. But I did want to check on something because you were doing your emails at the end and you were talking about Fright Night. You were talking about Return of the Living Dead. And Gene mentioned that you had not picked your 2023 Shat-tacular, Spooktacular. I believe you have. I just wanted to double check because, you know, I am looking out for your best interest. Also, I am a selfish prick. That my commission at Cat's Eye I think Big D told me that was going to be the Spooktacular, Shattacular. I don't even remember what it's called. Obviously, I was really excited and I can't remember what the hell the thing's called. Now I feel bad. But either way, I just wanted to check to make sure that that was still on for next Halloween, because I am super excited and I will be revisiting that one. And I don't have that high hopes, that you guys are going to love it, but you never know. We'll see. But anyway, you guys are awesome. I love you. Adam from Philly, take it easy.
Adam, rest assured, you are the Shattacular film of 2023. Yes, it is the Stephen King story, Drew Barrymore. It's a good one. I was thinking of 2024, which was the one that was up.
Now, Ash, I recently got into it with one of our listeners on Facebook, because that's a great use of time, who said that Stephen King has a wide variety of writings that I should explore, that I called him a one-trick pony, and they were very offended by that. And then they turned around and said, you want to talk about one-trick ponies? Anne Rice. Right? And they were like, oh, she doesn't write about vampires. I was like, she also writes about witches.
Yeah, and Jesus for the 3 years she was born again.
There you go.
Also, this is possibly the worst summary I've ever found for a film that I had. I just read it. Stephen King's tale follows a cat into a smoker's clinic, onto a penthouse ledge, and into a girl's bedroom. That's all that Google gave me.
Oh, no, I got one better for you. So as I was looking this one up for Adam from Philly, I saw 3 horror tales revolve around a mysterious stray cat, which is attempting to find a little girl in trouble.
Oh, God.
These are great.
Now that one would make a great anime.
Yeah, I think we need to ask ChatGPT what it thinks.
All right. Thanks, Adam, for calling in. Again, if you want to get a voicemail on the pod, just go to chatpod.com. Use the SpeakPipe feature to leave us a message. We'd love to hear from you. And we've got plenty more coming. But let's switch gears to email here, which we also accept and try to get to as soon as we can. And some of these are very, very old.
Well, the first one that we have here is from Jeremiah, and Jeremiah says, "Hey, Shat Crew, I've been listening through your podcast nonstop for the last 6 months. I was introduced to it by a friend while on a road trip, and the very first movie put on was The Matrix. Now, I'm biased, but I feel like this may touch or resonate with several listeners. Ash is way, way better than Roger was. I feel like your movie review timeline is a pivotal point in which the legitimacy of the ratings vastly differ. There is Shat the Movies before Ash and after her. She should score everything before her. I'd be happy also just knowing what she would grade it, what the overall score would put it with her grade. You guys rock. Please do The Long Kiss Goodnight at some point." And again, that comes from Jeremiah. And so, Jeremiah, The Matrix is one of my all-time favorite films. Randomly enough, I actually just watched The Matrix a couple of weeks ago. I have no clue what the two of you gave The Matrix. It's hard, right? Because we're rating just the first movie, I think is very difficult, knowing what comes after the first movie. For me personally, the second one is my favorite. But I would say the first Matrix movie, I would give it a solid 1 wipe.
I think we were pretty favorable with it. I gave it 1 wipe. I think Big D was also 1 wipe, and Roger came in at 2.
Yeah, I think today I think I would like it more. I think now that I have some more perspective of some of the shit, that I think it was groundbreaking. I probably would go half a wipe. I think so. But just also to close the loop on that, Jeremiah did come through. It is commissioned. Long Kiss Goodnight. That will be done for him in May of 2024.
One of the King Bee's favorite movies.
So the next one comes from Mega Cargon, and they say, "Hey, Shat Crew, I discovered your podcast a few months ago. I'd just like to say thanks, because it got me through the drudgery of my daily life as a window cleaner. I can't afford a commission, as I said, as I've got a shitty job as a window cleaner. But there is a film I would have asked you to commission if I could. It's a cinematic gem that is Hawk the Slayer. Just going through your calendar for the year and have seen that you're going to review it in nearly a year's time. Better late than never, I suppose. We'll look forward to hearing what you think of it. Has to be seen to believed. We'll also look forward to your thoughts on possibly the worst film ever made too, Highlander 2, The Quickening." And again, that comes from Mega Cargon.
First of all, Mega Cargon, when you wrote in and I read this for the first time, I imagined a window cleaner on a skyscraper and thought that can't be possibly boring at all. But then I remembered that in some parts of the country, not Arizona, they just have window cleaners that just regularly clean windows because your windows get dirty with rain and I don't know, what other shit do you guys get that makes your windows dirty? Bugs?
Pollen?
Mold, bird shit.
You have mold on your windows?
No, I'm saying it happens. Like when rain, it happens anywhere. It happens on roofs. Any surface gets wet and life finds a way, Gene.
Yeah, really the two big things I've heard in Florida are mold and rough rats.
Yeah, those and ash is like swamps and gators. But have you guys seen the Hawk the Slayer poster? This movie, man, this looks like you had Lady Hawk met Krull. That is the vibe I'm getting from this film.
Whoa, Jack Palance as Voltan? I'm sold already. I'm sold out. Oh wow, it looks like it started off as a pinball machine, and then someone said we should make a movie out of this pinball machine. Also, there's a lot of balding men in this movie.
Oh, a lot of like leather vests.
Yes.
There's like some sword play. There's like a Darth Vader looking like medieval mask. It looks wild.
Well, my good Cargon, I'm glad that you have the magic ability to think of movies to be commissioned and then other people just commission them for you. It's a very powerful trait.
And then the last one that we have comes from Chris H. And Chris says, longtime listener, first time emailer. Just listen to the back to school episode and I have one question. How in the absolute hell do you spend an hour on back to school and not mention Sam Kinison, who absolutely nails his role here? Yes, I'm sure two of you found his trademark yelling scream delivery annoying. And listening for all these years, I can guess which two. They were probably back there partying, putting headbands on, doing drugs, listening to their goddamn Beatle albums. But he absolutely owns his two scenes. Great show otherwise, although it is penalized to white for this glaring omission, and I'll ignore the parts that y'all got wrong. Above average, underrated 80s comedy, solid 2-white movie. Keep doing what you do, Chris.
Chris, there was a conversation that happened off mic about Sam Kinison.
There was.
I was so excited that he was going to be in this movie. He shows up on screen. I'm like, yes, he's going to do something cool. And this is the thing. When I see a comedian whom I respect show up in a movie, I want to see them do something different than what we have seen in their stand-up, something different than what we expect. That is not their catchphrase. This felt like Steve Urkel showing up in a movie and just saying, did I do that? He's screaming his ass off. It's the Sam Kinison thing. It was so tired. It was so unnecessary. Love you, Chris. But yes, I am one of the two who did not care for this.
Chris, you're right. I loved it. It's so dumb. Because Truman was too much of a pussy. I like you. I got to keep an eye on you. I like that. Yes. I thought it was funny.
It was terrible. I thought he was so annoying. So I guess I'm the second one.
Yeah. And note that what Big D described there was Rodney Dangerfield being funny.
No. When Kinnison's like, hey, yeah, I got to keep an eye on you. You're like an outstanding student. Like he's gonna be the one to succeed in the class.
Fuck. Chris, listen, you, Big D, put your Crocs on, go charter fishing, whatever the fuck it is dudes like you do. Enjoy your life. Thanks for writing in. And if you'd like to write in again, you can email us, hosts@shatthemovies.com. We'd love to hear from you. What do we have coming up next week, Big D?
Gene, we're going from an obscure Japanese anime that we had to really struggle to find to something that I think it's a big movie for the 80s for people who remember. It's got some big stars in it. And it's about hard luck cabbie John, directionless after being fired from his job and dumped by his girlfriend, enlists in the U.S. Army with his close pal Russell. After his barely satisfactory performance in basic training, the irreverent winger emerges as a figurehead of a ragtag bag of Army misfits. However, his hijinks threaten to cause an international scandal when he inadvertently commandeers a military assault vehicle behind enemy lines. Commissioned by Daniel M., came out in 1981, and this should be a good one.
And for those of you who want to watch it, it's available streaming on Fubo.
I'm going to watch this one dubbed in Japanese just to keep the vibe going.
Well, thank you, Daniel, for the upcoming commission. Thank you, Eric, for commissioning Ninja Scroll. Thank you to all the commissioners who make this podcast possible. That concludes this week's episode of Shat The Movies. Be sure to follow us on social media, share with a friend. We're on Facebook, Twitter, Snapchat, and Instagram at Shat The Movies. Email us, host@shatthemovies.com. Support the podcast by shopping our Amazon affiliate link, buying our merch, or commissioning your own movie. All that information is available on our website, shatpod.com. Also, check out our sister podcast, Shat on TV. We review TV series such as Lovecraft Country, Westworld, True Detective, Taboo, American Gods, Game of Thrones, and Watchmen. Find all that information on our website, shatpod.com/TV, wherever fine podcasts can be found, including Apple Podcasts, Google Play, Stitcher, and YouTube. Be sure to subscribe, and if you stop by Apple Podcasts, please leave a 5-star review. That helps the podcast grow. On behalf of my co-hosts, Big D and Ash, I'm Gene Lyons. Join us next time for the following movie.
You're a bum, and that's all you'll ever be. A bum!
Are you stuck in a dead-end job? Personal problems got you down.
You can't go! All the plants are gonna die! I've lost my job, my apartment, my car, and my girlfriend.
Well, the Army can turn your life around.
Before I knew it, she was walking next to me, singing, do I did it, do.
Join a whole new breed of professionals.
Oh my God, mama!
Learn what it's like to feel like a man. Get your body into incredible shape. Master important career skills.
What are you gonna do with that?
This, and this.
And represent your country in foreign lands.
Chicago! Bang, bang!
So if you're a man who likes to take charge of your own life,
You're different! You're weird! You're a mutant! You're a killer! You're a trained killer! You're a lean, mean, violent machine! I'll do
and this looks like your kind of challenge,
Boom, shakalaka, boom, shakalaka, boom, shakalaka, boom.
So am I to understand that you men completed your training on your own?
That's the fact, Jack! That's the fact, Jack!
join the wackiest group
Dazzle, dazzle!
that ever put on a uniform.
Gentlemen, this is the EM-50, Urban Assault Vehicle.
And ride with them as they blunder across borders.
Man, Louis, get this thing moving. Come on. You're dangerous, you know that? Hard to hit.
All right, steady, steady, steady.
We got one heavily armed recreational vehicle here, man.
Oh, this is interesting.
Boom, shakalaka, boom, shakalaka, boom, shakalaka, boom.